Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're going all in on something that has captivated humanity since, well, the dawn of time,
Yeah,
trying to figure out what the future holds.
predicting the future.
Predicting the future. Exactly. And we have some really fascinating source material
Yeah.
for this deep dive. We've got some insights from some AI that's tried to predict the future.
AI, yeah. So before you think that we've gone totally sci-fi on you,
Yeah.
we're going to take a step back and look at the bigger picture
Okay.
and what this means for you in terms of understanding the future.
I like that.
So, it's interesting that you said AI's attempts
Yeah.
at predicting the future, because one of the sources actually points out that the AI itself knows that predicting the future is inherently tricky.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the limitations is that the AI's knowledge base
Okay.
has a cutoff date.
A cutoff date.
It does. And in this case, it was September of 2021.
September 2021.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty big deal, right?
Yeah, a pretty big deal.
I mean, so much has happened
so much.
since 2021.
Well, since then, yeah.
Imagine trying to predict the world today based on information from, say, the year 2000.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You would miss out on smartphones,
Smartphones,
social media,
social media, the whole landscape
everything.
would be totally
It
different.
would be unrecognizable.
It would be unrecognizable, yeah. So it makes you think, how much can we really know
Yeah.
about what's to come?
It really does make you wonder. I mean, historians have been looking at predictions for centuries.
Yeah.
And the track record is, let's just say, mixed.
Mixed.
Some are wildly off,
Yeah.
and others are surprisingly accurate.
So, you mentioned historical predictions. Are there any that come to mind
Oh, yeah.
that either were like way off or surprisingly accurate?
I think one that really surprised me was the prediction of personal computers
Oh, yeah.
becoming ubiquitous. Now, in the early days of computing, a lot of experts thought computers would remain these massive, expensive machines.
Used only by, governments and big corporations.
Right.
They totally missed the mark on how accessible and transformative PCs would become.
So they basically thought they would stay, like mainframes.
Yeah, these giant room-sized computers.
Yeah, and that's a great example of how unforeseen events,
Right.
like in that case, the invention of the microchip,
Mm-hmm.
can just totally change the trajectory
Yeah,
of a
that's
prediction.
Totally.
And that's kind of like our weekend trip analogy
Oh,
that we always talk about, right? You can plan everything out perfectly,
You can?
but then a sudden storm
Uh-huh.
or an unexpected road closure,
Yeah.
something you just can't
You
anticipate,
see it come in,
just throws everything off.
changes the whole game.
Yeah. So that brings us up to another crucial point, I think,
Okay.
about the AI's limitations.
Hmm.
And really the limitations of any attempt to predict the future.
Hmm.
It's not about certainty. It's about
It's about probabilities.
probability
And trends.
and trends. So let's break that down a little bit. What does it mean to think about the future in terms of trends and probabilities?
Well, we can. We can analyze historical data. We can look at current events and try to identify patterns and trends.
Okay.
So, for example, we can look at population growth. We can look at technological developments, economic indicators. And by understanding these trends, we can maybe make some guesses
Okay.
about what the future might hold. But we always have to remember that these are just probabilities,
Right.
not guarantees. Unforeseen events, like we were talking about with the microchip, can always come along and disrupt
Right.
those trends.
So essentially, we're using data
we are.
to get an idea of what's to come. But understanding that there's
There are
always going to be things
unknowns.
but we can't account for.
Exactly.
The AI also makes a good point about the importance of reliable sources.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of our listeners would agree with me here. It feels like every source these days claims to be reliable.
Claims to be the best.
Right. How do we actually figure out what information is trustworthy? Especially when it comes to predictions
Yeah, that's a great question.
about the future. I mean,
Well, that's where critical thinking comes in.
okay, so how do we practice that?
It's about not just accepting information at face value.
Okay.
You really have to ask yourself, who's making this prediction?
Okay.
What's their motivation? Are they trying to sell me something? What data are they basing this on? And what's missing from their perspectives?
So it's not just about finding the, quote, right
Yeah.
source.
No.
It's about how we're approaching
It's the approach.
the information that we consume.
Yes.
We have to be active participants,
Active.
asking the tough questions and recognizing that even experts Can be
Right.
wrong.
Even experts can be wrong. And
Yeah.
and also remember, the future isn't this fixed destination. It's
Um,
constantly evolving. It's changing. It's shaped by our actions and choices.
Yeah. So what does this all mean for us?
That's the big question.
How can we prepare
Mm.
for a future that is inherently uncertain?
Well, instead of obsessing over what might happen, focus on what you can control.
Okay. So what can we control?
Your actions,
Okay.
your mindset,
Mm.
and your ability to adapt.
So being flexible.
Being flexible. Yeah.
Okay. And developing skills that are going to be valuable
Yeah.
across different potential futures.
To things like critical thinking,
Critical thinking,
problem solving,
problem solving,
lifelong learning.
lifelong learning. So it sounds like while we can't predict everything,
No, we can't.
this deep dive hopefully gives you some tools
Some tools.
to navigate whatever comes next. Stay
Stay
curious,
curious.
stay informed,
Mm.
and remember the future is what we make it.
It really is. And who knows, maybe you'll be making this accurate prediction someday. By understanding trends, probabilities, and practicing critical thinking,